Hey guys! So Mimikyu is a Pokemon that conceals its true identity by disguising itself as one of the most popular Pokemon, Pikachu. But what if it mimicked popular Pokemon representing the other types? With Pikachu representing the electric type, let's see what other Pokemon Mimikyu would take the form of with the remaining 17 types. Starting off with the normal type, Mimikyu would choose to use Eevee as its disguise. The Pokemon Company has basically made Eevee an honorary mascot the last few years, even pairing it alongside Pikachu for the Let's Go games because of its massive popularity and wide appeal. But why would a Mimikyu choose to look like Eevee instead of Pikachu? Well, this Mimikyu is one that felt confused and unsure about its life and future. One day, it noticed Eevee and saw how its limitless potential to evolve into so many different forms was part of what made it so popular among trainers. Seeing this gave this particular Mimikyu more confidence and reassurance, knowing that there were so many options ahead of them, and that they had the power to choose whichever one they found best. Speaking of Eevee, two of its evolutions definitely take the crown for most popular in their particular type category: Umbreon for the dark type, and Sylveon for the fairy type. Let's start off first with Umbreon. Mimikyu are often the most comfortable in the dark and in shadowy areas, but this Mimikyu is actually scared of the dark. That is, until one night they encountered a kind Umbreon who illuminated the area around them with the ring patterns on their fur. They now wear a rag resembling Umbreon to always remember and appreciate that night, and to give themselves confidence to face their fears. Then of course we have Sylveon. A Mimikyu that looks like this Pokemon would do so out of love for their trainer. Before meeting their trainer, these Mimikyu would have carefully watched the relationships between other Pokemon and their human partners, hoping to have a trainer themselves someday. During this time, they would see an Eevee evolve into a Sylveon because of the love they had for their trainer. When Mimikyu eventually found a trainer themselves and realized how much their trainer truly cared for them, they one day appeared with this look instead of the typical Pikachu costume. These Mimikyu wanted to show their trainers just how much they meant to them. Let's move on from the cute fairy type to the rough and tough fighting type Pokemon, Blaziken. Blaziken's cool appearance and status as a starter Pokemon definitely make it one of the most popular fighting type Pokemon in the franchise. A Mimikyu that chooses to mimic Blaziken is one whose main goal is to be an expert in battle. This Mimikyu likes to scrap, and prefers trying to win over potential trainers with its fighting ability rather than cute looks. Trainers who choose to train these types of Mimikyu end up finding their antics endearing and adorable anyway, and have to try to hide their faces while Mimikyu is practicing fighting so as not to offend them. Another popular Pokemon with the part fire typing is Charizard. This Pokemon is definitely one of the most popular among fans by far. Mimikyu that choose to look like Charizard tend to be more spunky and fiery. They still desperately want validation and love from trainers, but they also want to look powerful and think they are too cool for you. You could say that these Mimikyu act a bit like Ash's Charizard initially behaved in the anime. A somewhat similar Gen 1 Pokemon is also used as the costume inspiration for some Mimikyu, the Dragon-type Pokemon Dragonite. Mimikyu that take on the appearance of Dragonite have polar opposite personalities to those that look like Charizard. These Mimikyu are gentle and kind-hearted. It's theorized that they have heard tales of Dragonite's altruism by helping humans and guiding ships to safety. They have a strong desire to help people, and try to look like Dragonite in hopes that people will fear them less and will be willing to accept their aid. There are two other pseudo-legendary Pokemon that are known to inspire some Mimikyu. Those are the ground-type Garchomp and rock-type Tyranitar. Only Mimikyu that have chosen to live in the mountains away from humans and most other Pokemon choose to use Garchomp or Tyranitar for their costumes. Which one they choose is all based on their experience living in the mountains. Some Mimikyu are attacked by wild bird Pokemon, but they are then saved thanks to the bird-hunting Garchomp. They then don a Garchomp disguise. Whether they do this because they're so grateful to Garchomp, or whether they just hope that bird Pokemon will leave them alone is unknown. Meanwhile, Mimikyu that aren't harassed by mountain-dwelling birds may take on the form of Tyranitar instead. These Mimikyu admire Tyranitar's brute strength and power to change the very landscape. These Mimikyu hope to be just as strong as Tyranitar one day. Let's move on to a Pokemon that might just be the most popular ice type, Lapras. This Mimikyu chose to use Lapras as their costume of choice after an experience they had with the sea-dwelling Pokemon. They once fell into the ocean themselves, but were saved by a Lapras. They were grateful to Lapras, and saw how much trainers also appreciated the Pokemon because of their kind and gentle nature. This Mimikyu thinks of Lapras as a role model and has a docile and helpful personality. Mimikyu tends to stay by the water in hopes that it can help humans on land that Lapras can't reach. A Pokemon that is the opposite of helpful and is mischievous instead is the extremely popular ghost Pokemon Gengar. In games like Sun and Moon, we see that Mimikyu are often found alongside Pokemon in the Gengar family, so it makes sense that a Mimikyu could be influenced by Gengar. In rare instances, Mimikyu may choose to use Gengar as a costume instead of Pikachu if they've got a bit of a cheeky personality. They have seen how Gengar could be a bit of a troublemaker, but is still so well loved by many trainers. These Mimikyu try to get away with acting up and causing trouble too, hoping that their Gengar disguise will allow people to still adore them anyway. Some Mimikyu think they are just too refined for such silly antics. Instead, they become inspired by the psychic Pokemon Gardevoir. Those that mimic Gardevoir are some of the Mimikyu that admire and respect beauty and grace above all else. They will practice floating around as gracefully as possible. They dream of winning a beauty contest someday. One of the most underappreciated Pokemon typings is the bug type. Out of all of the bug Pokemon, Scizor is probably the most popular. Though rare, Mimikyu may choose to disguise themselves as Scizor. These Mimikyu are ones that feel like underdogs, and see Scizor as a Pokemon that has been able to break through and gain love and admiration despite its typing being one of the less favorable ones. They hope that trainers will someday notice them as well, even if they may startle them a little at first. Pokemon that are always more likely to be loved by the community, though, are legendaries. One of the most popular, and certainly for the flying type, is Rayquaza. A Mimikyu that chooses Rayquaza as its costume most likely has a bit of an ego. They think they are legends in their own right, and desire the same type of appreciation that a Pokemon like Rayquaza receives. These Mimikyu appear much longer than usual to try and capture Rayquaza's look as best as possible, and use a dowel to hold up the fake head. They become enraged if they have to let go of the dowel for any reason. Unlike Mimikyu that use Rayquaza as a disguise, Mimikyu that try to look like the prominent Steel-type Pokemon Lucario are benevolent. These Mimikyu care about being balanced in both mind and body, and are trying to be as well-rounded as possible. They choose to use Lucario as their costume because they admire the Pokemon's dedicated training to strengthen their mental and physical abilities. Like Lucario, Mimikyu like this have a strong sense of justice. They will try to train alongside Lucario whenever possible. Another Pokemon that tends to be calm and collected is Greninja. This is the most popular water-type Pokemon in the franchise. Greninja are mimicked by Mimikyu because they are admired for their cool attitude and ability to make quick and precise movements in battle. You could also say that these Mimikyu are going through a permanent Naruto phase. They will fold up paper into shurikens and throw them for target practice. They try to sneakily attack their targets, but often trip on their own rag costume. We're down to the last two typings, Grass and Poison. It seems like the most beloved Pokemon in these categories are both starter Pokemon, being Rowlet and Bulbasaur respectively. Though uncommon, some Mimikyu will choose to disguise themselves as Rowlet instead of Pikachu. These tend to be Mimikyu that live near Hala or Professor Kukui, who offer young trainers their starters. They've come to recognize Rowlet's popularity among the starter choices. They will try to look like Rowlet and sneak into the starter lineup themselves, hoping that a new trainer will choose them. And last but not least is Bulbasaur. Mimikyu will wear a Bulbasaur costume for similar reasons as the ones that dress like Rowlet, though this is mostly in other regions such as Galar, where the poison and grass type is presented to trainers. These Mimikyu can get a bit carried away in their disguise, and will pretend that their actual appendages are Bulbasaur's vines. They will smack other Pokemon around with them as if they're using the move Vine Whip. Which Mimikyu disguise was your favorite? Are there any others that you think would be fun to see? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching!